For this week's video project, for this week's art journaling process, what we're going to do is collage a page of the things that bring you pleasure. I think that kind of helps to create a context for what we're looking at as we're diving into Genesis 4. Now, of course, this is just an idea. You feel free to do anything that God lays on your heart. He may give you something totally separate to be processing on, but I'm just going to share with you what has been making a difference in my life and helping me. What I did was I decided to start out with a bunch of different magazines. I wanted to look through and see, what are the things that bring me pleasure? I mean, it has just been so fascinating to think about how God is the God of pleasure. He created us in His image so we also could enjoy pleasure. And He is even the one who gives us pleasurable things to enjoy. Now, of course, there's an enemy who wants to take that exact same pleasurable type things and twist them, distort them, pervert them to tempt us, just as he did with Adam and Eve back in Genesis 3. So that's why there's boundaries that God gives for these pleasures. But we need to remember, because it's such a lie from the enemy, that pleasure comes from Him and God's this killjoy and He's the one who's going to keep us from it. No, all pleasure has come from God, and even our ability to be able to enjoy it has come from the Father. I can't begin to tell you how awesome it was to do this art journaling experience and to go through magazines and look and cut out different pictures of different things that brought me pleasure. So I actually did two different things. First, I started out with just some basic watercolors and a marker. And I started with the colors that bring me pleasure, because there is nothing, I mean, you think about it, God could have created the world in black and white. Boring, but instead He created it in a full array of different colors that, oh my goodness, they bring such delight to my eyes. Out here in Colorado, we've been having so much rain lately. The wildflowers are going crazy. They're everywhere. And you know what it is? It's the bits of flower and the bits of color and the bits of beauty that I see as I'm out walking. So nourishes my soul. So after I created a background, and you know what, with this page, just create something that's fun. Take whatever colors stand out to you. What I did was I took some of my favorites. I started out with just blue, and I texturized and just with watercolors created a blue background. But then I started adding some green and some purple and pink into here. You can have fun. You can do it all one color. You can do a variety of colors. You can do a picture if you want. But for me, it was just so fun, just playing with color. And it was so refreshing to my soul just to do that. So the first thing that brings me pleasure is color. Then what I did was take out the magazine and I began to cut out different things that brought me pleasure. And then I created a collage with all of these things. Now, I am kind of a natural girl. Don't like chocolate, not really into sugar, but oh my goodness, fruit and nuts, berries, especially and almonds. Those bring me pleasure. And it was pretty funny because I did have some Eating Well magazines here. And you know what? I could have probably filled this entire page full of food that brought me pleasure. So I think I'm going to limit myself to fruit and nuts, and you get the idea. More natural type things. Love that stuff. But then also flowers. Put in some flowers right there. But then I pulled out one of my bicycling magazines, and one of the latest issues was talking about turn every ride into an adventure. And I have to say, the biggest joy in my life comes from my dates with Jesus. Times when I hop on my bicycle and we just head off. I bring my Bible with me, I bring my journal, and I'll just stop at different benches or different pretty places along the way, read a chapter of the Bible, just be like, okay, Papa, what do you want to say to me through this passage? And it is some of the sweetest times as I'm hearing from Him. But you know what? He is also the best date ever. It is amazing some of the places that He will take me. I am also a person who absolutely loves fire. Now, Again, fire's a great example of how pleasure needs to be contained in boundaries for it to be pleasurable. I absolutely love lanterns and candles and fireplaces, and I have been known to bike across town just to go visit a Panera that has a fireplace in it, and I'll just prop my feet up there and just enjoy sweet time with God, soaking in the atmosphere of that fire. But it's just like anything. If that pleasure, if that fire is not contained within boundaries, we have lived out here in Colorado 3 different summers when they've had 3 massively destructive fires. And let me tell you, that is not a thing of beauty. It is heartbreaking to see when something contained that can create so much pleasure gets out of control, it destroys. And that is such an incredible metaphor. So that's why I went ahead and I put all of this up here, because I love not only, candles and lanterns and things like that, but it's such a good thing just to remember pleasure within the boundaries that God has laid is a beautiful, life-giving, refreshing thing. But when it overflows those boundaries, it is not good at all. And so those were some of the things that I put on here. And I love this quote I found in a magazine. And it's so fun. I always pray before I begin. And I'm like, Papa, would you speak to me through the things I'm finding? Highlight for me the things you want me to cut out. And God speaks to me so much through collaging. And this one said, let your bicycle wander and you never know what you'll find except an unforgettable time. That is so true of my time with Jesus. The other thing I stuck in here are books. I love to be super active, but then, oh, how I love to curl up with a good book and just to read. There's nothing like a good story that can bring pleasure to me. And I think it kind of encourages my heart, because I lived so much of my life in the middle of this story. It's just so neat. I especially love autobiographies of how God has worked in people's lives, when you can kind of see from the beginning and end and see his fingerprint throughout their lives, how he's guiding them, and even how he's at work in the hard, blessing them. That so nourishes my soul. Now, you can just do one page. For me, I got this idea though, and I thought, oh, I want to do a second page too of the things that bring me pleasure. And so I had so much fun creating this other page. What I did was I took a bunch of old books that I didn't really like, and I tore the pages out of them, and I Mod Podged them just all over, different fonts, different pages, Mod Podged as a background for this. Because something that brings me so much pleasure are ideas. I love ideas, new ideas. For me to just go to a Barnes and Noble and just to randomly select different books and sit down and read, because what I love is ideas are the spark for creativity. And so many times I'll take that idea as I'm learning something new, I'll connect it with something else and then create something, and then all of a sudden this is like life-changing for me, and I have the opportunity to share it with someone else. So this is something that starts with ideas. I am a big idea person, and that just results in so much transformation in my life. So I'll put the butterfly because I do love nature and I love beauty, and I love seeing butterflies fluttering down in the spring and in the summer. But also ideas are like just that whole source of transformation. And then I went around it, I covered it. After I Mod Podged the different pages on, I took different stamp pads and I put the stamp and used the stamp pad just to rub it, to kind of distress it and add color to it and add it so that these 2 pages would actually look well going side by side in my art journal. And then I put here, because James 1:17 really stood out to me, because I thought this is something I want to remember. Every good and perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of the heavenly light, who does not change like shifting shadows. I absolutely love that. That's probably one of my favorite verses. Just realizing how God is so generous, and he is the one who has given us what is pleasurable and made us in his image to be able to enjoy pleasure. And it is something fascinating to think about. If God hadn't made us that way, how could we ever delight ourselves in him? Because see, that pleasure, that ability to enjoy pleasure, is at the root of being able to enjoy the one who's created us and to enjoy relationship with him. So I hope you have a great time just really meditating on what are these gifts that God's given to you? What brings you pleasure? The neatest thing is it's very unique from person to person. None of my things may even be on your page, and that's okay because God has created us as unique individuals. But one thing that is so key, just to be remembering about this whole idea of pleasure, that God is the one who's given it. And this can turn into an amazing time of thanking him and praising him. I had so much fun going through this page as I was putting it together and thanking the Lord for each one of these things that he has created and blessed me with in my life, especially for the gift of being able to hear him. I may be almost deaf, but he has given me that ability to still hear him. I mean, one time I even said, God, what were you thinking, making me such an extreme extrovert and then giving me this handicap that isolates me? And he said, Deb, I'm always here to interact with you and for you to enjoy relationship with. What a gift that is. So I just had a sweet time of just saying thank you to God for all of these different things that he's brought into my life. And you know what? This doesn't even begin to touch on the pleasures that are in my life. Like I said, it's just a small taste, pun intended, of the food that I enjoy. So all of these things are just a small taste. But oh, did it nourish my soul and bless my heart to be thinking of the gifts God's given me that bring me pleasure? And has that ever spurred me on to want to find out even more what brings him pleasure, and to do that, not to earn his favor, but to just bring him joy and to enhance our relationship. Have fun.